Good evening. Everybody's tired? Or everybody's full? I don't know. So, okay, one more time. Good evening. Thank you so much. Welcome to Tsukiji Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. I want to know, is there anyone who comes here the first time today? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Always welcome to this service. Okay, everybody, please join me in Gassho. Namanda, 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 namanda. Thank you everyone for coming to this Saturday English service. First, we would like to begin the service by reciting the aspiration, which can be found on page 2 in the blue service book.
Aspiration. Reverently, we come before the shrine of our Amida Buddha, the Holy One, the Perfect One. With gratitude, we have brought our offering of love and devotion to honor the Buddha. We earnestly resolve to strive to understand the holy teaching and to walk every day in the blessed path, so that, like the Buddha, may we attain the peace of nirvana. Someone loves, someone loves, someone.
Now, we'll chant the sutra, Jusege. Please turn to page 3 of the same service book.
Namanda, 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 Dai. Nabon Chosegam Kishimu Jodot Tigan Fumandot Dei Fujol Sholgak Gaomu Ryolkok Fuidai Seshu 緒に合唱。ナマンダ、ブツナマンダ、ブツナマンダ、ブツナマンダ、ブツナマンダ、ブツナマンダ、ブツナマンダ、はいはい。
We'll now sing the Gatha Shinshu anthem, found on page 5 in the same service book. Congregation, please stand up. Please remain standing for the recitation of the three treasures found on page 4 in the same service book.
The three treasures. Difficult is it to receive a human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us, with sincerity and true reverence, take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Please be seated. Please wait just a moment until we're ready. Thank you. Thank you so much for waiting. This evening, we are so happy to have Reverend Nanjo, Resident Minister of Hojuji Temple in Tokyo. It's next to this temple actually, as our speaker. Nanjo Sensei will talk on the life of Shinran Shonin. I am so glad to introduce Nanjo Sensei to you. よろしくお願いいたします。
Okay, please join me in Gassho. Namanda, 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 Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda. Good evening. Thank you for coming. Saturday English Buddhist service at Tsukiji Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. My name is Nanjo. I'm one of the staff of this English Buddhist service. And this month, I'd like to talk about the life of Shinran Shonin. So Shinran Shonin is our founder of Jodo Shinshu. Jodo Shinshu is one of the Japanese Buddhist school denomination. So hopefully my talk will touch all of you during this time. So, before my talk, let me introduce myself. I'm Uran Kumahara introduced me. My name is Nanjo. I'm a resident minister at Hojuji Buddhist Temple in Tokyo. Our temple is right where we are today. So it's kind of no privacy at all. I'll do my best. And born and raised in the Shin Buddhist tradition in Japan. So actually, I was born in Oita Prefecture and raised in Tokyo until high school, and moved to Kyoto to go to Ryukoku University. Ryukoku University is a university to study Buddhism, or our school, Jodo Shinshu. And then during when I was a graduate student of Ryukok University, I studied at the Institute of Buddhist Studies in California as an exchange student in 2010. And go back to Japan and received a PhD in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism at Ryukoku. And now I took over my father as a Buddhist priest, resident minister now. And as I said, I'm steering committee member of Tsukiji Hongwanji English Language Dharma Service. And my recent work is writing articles with Michelle from NHK World. Have you actually Tsukiji Hongwanji newsletter is published every month, and I and Michelle continuously serialized in the monthly publications. So if you are interested in these articles, please let me know. It's totally free. And it's kind of introductory article on Buddhism. So if you would like to look at it, please let me know, or please ask Tsukiji Hongwanji staff. We can get articles actually at the main hall next to this room. So anyway. Okay. Today, my topic is expressing the life of Shinran, who is a founder of Shin Buddhism, through the scroll Goeden. Have you seen Goeden? Okay. It's compiled by Kakunyo. Kakunyo-san. Kakunyo Shonin is a great grandson of Shinran, Imago. And slow, sorry. So let me explain Goeden first. Okay. So Goeden is actually, so original shape is this, like this. It's called Shinran Denne. Goeden was originally a scroll containing a biography of Shinran, like this. And because this scroll is kind of too small to see for many people, the biographical portion and the illustrations were compiled separately. The former is called Godensho, and the illustrations called Goeden. The Goeden were kind of reproduced as hanging scroll. In my denomination, every year we respectively observe Shinran Shonin's memorial service. It's called holl in Japanese. During annual holl service, Jodo Shinshu Buddhist priests recite the Godensho to express our gratitude to Shinran Shonin or Jodo Shinshu teachings. Actually, this is my friend, but kind of privacy thing, so kind of, yeah, sorry about that. the Godensho describes main features of Shinran Shonin's life in 15 chapters. 15 chapters. So it may take about a few hours to read or recite whole things. So it's a little bit hard to listen to whole things in one time. So, and if you do seiza, sitting on your knee, it makes you suffer. So I don't recommend that. Please be careful. And the scrolls are exhibited for general view in the altar. It's called Naijin, altar of the temple. This picture is Honganji's Goeben in Kyoto, our head temple. In 1663, Honganji made a set of 8 scrolls in order to exhibit them in the main hall during Horonko service. After the 15th century, the Goeben became widespread. And Renyo-san, Renyo Shonin, the 8th head Buddhist priest of Honganji, he established the rule of granting duplicates of the Goeben in 4 hanging scrolls like this to Jodo Shinshu temples. So like including my temple. So like in Horonko service, I enshrine these 4 scrolls Goeben to listen to Buddha Dharma and express our gratitude to Shinran Shonin. But Horonko is a kind of Shinran Shonin's, it's kind of private service for Shinran Shonin. Shinran Shonin no Hojuji. So it's really important to listen to life of Shinran during Horonko service using enshrining Goeben. So this is the order when you look at Goeben. We look at this form from the right to the left and from the bottom to the above, as if we offer homage to Shinran. So now, let's see the life of Shinran. So as you may know, Jodo Shinshu, one of the Japanese Buddhist school, and Buddhism originates from Shakyamuni Buddha in India, and it was handed down through the religious understanding of Shinran Shonin. And he was born in 1173, and he rebirthed to the Pure Land in 1263. And he entered the priesthood at 9 years old. When Shinran was 9 years old, accompanied by his uncle, Lord Noritsuna Hino, his uncle, Shinran visited to the monastery of Jien, who is a minister at Shoren in Kyoto, for his ordination. So this is the statue of Shinran Shonin when he was almost 9 years old. And this is a picture of me when I am 9 years old. Never mind. And this is a place of Shinran Shonin's ordination at Shoren in Kyoto. So let me explain about Shoren later, but it's really important scene. So one, it's the ox cart. It represents Shinran Shonin riding in the ox cart, arrived in front of the center gate of Shoren. And he's a kind of helper, the attendant. It's called toneri in Japanese. Toneri. He seems to be sleeping or sad. I don't know. And it's cherry trees. According to one interpretation, it represents Shinran Shonin's ordination. I'll tell you later. And Shinran was a residence for Tendai Buddhist priests. It's located at the foot of Mount Hiei, Enryakuji Temple, on the foot of Mount Hiei. So Mount Hiei, Enryakuji Temple, is now the World Heritage Site and is the head temple of the Tendai sect of Buddhism, Tendai-shu. It was opened on the mountain by Dendyo Daishi Saicho in the 8th century. So, as I said, Shinran located at the foot of Mount Hiei, and it was functioning as a residence for Tendai Buddhist priests to go to the imperial court easily. So, for example, like imperial court asked to Tendai Buddhist priests at Mount Hiei, next November we will observe a big Buddhist ceremony, so come. And then Tendai Buddhist priest have to go to the imperial court as soon as possible. But Enryakuji Temple is kind of far from the imperial court, so Shinran was functioned, like it was functioning as their residence to go there easily. So Shinran went to Shinran with his uncle and met the Venerable Jian. So in Godensho, Kakunyo Shonin expressed about it, accompanied by his uncle, Lord Noritsuna of the 3rd court rank, junior grade, he went to the monastery of the Venerable Jian. So let me explain about Jian first. Jian was the son of Fujiwara no Tadamichi, a member of Fujiwara clan of powerful aristocrats. His brother was the future regent Fujiwara no Kanezane. Jian became a Tendai monk early in his life, entering Shinran at age 11. He eventually rose to the rank of Daisojo, leader of the Tendai. So therefore, the fact that Shinran Shonin ordained at Shinran is what makes him so prestigious. So so in Shinran Denne, since Kakunyo Shonin tried to emphasize on the thing that Shinran Shonin had a good relationship with Jian and Shinran. So this is the inside of Shinran. I drew a red line, sorry. There are 2 rooms in this illustration, and both rooms are depicted in one painting. But there is a time difference on the left and right side. On the left side, you can see the scene where the Shinran Shonin and Jian-sama are facing each other. And on the right side, you can see the scene of Shinran Shonin's ordination ceremony. It's Jian, Shinran, and his uncle Noritsuna Hino. Although it is not described in Shinran Denne, there is a famous legend regarding Shinran's ordination. When Shinran arrived at Shinran, the residential minister Jian suggested to postpone his ordination to the next day because it was already late in the night. But Shinran suddenly looked at blossoming cherry trees which stood in front of the temple gate, and he composed the following poem. Reflecting about tomorrow, will these transient blossoms in the midst of the night not be blown away by the heavy wind? He used cherry blossom as a metaphor to represent our own lives as finite. Shinran Shonin tried to share with an unchangeable and inescapable reality for all human beings regarding the impermanence of life. Actually, it is not clear whether this legend is a historical fact or not, but it gave us the important suggestion that we cherish this moment in my own life. This scene is Shinran Shonin's Tonjer, Teihatsu. It is a ceremony in Buddhism to enter into priesthood called Tokudo. And in ancient Japan, a paper lamp that was used for night ceremonies called shisoku, paper lamp. In Godensho, Kakunyo Shonin said, the Shonin is Shinran Shonin. Shinran Shonin had his head shaved by this noble priest. Noble priest means Jien Kasho priest, and was given the Buddhist name Hannen. So he was given the Buddhist name Hannen at Shoren. And Shinran became affiliated with Mount Hiei as Tendai monk. Soon after he ordained, Shinran Shonin ascended Mount Hiei. Founded by Dengyo Daishi Saicho, Mount Hiei was established as a place to train and develop people who would be leaders of a future world. It became the place where the essence of Buddhism was taught. Young Shinran Shonin would have ascended Mount Hiei with an enormous amount of hope to achieve enlightenment and seek to his problems of life and death. Shinran Shonin devoted himself to Buddhist studies and practices at Mount Hiei about 20 years as Tendai monk. In Mount Hiei Enryakuji Temple, Shinran Shonin practiced the Tendai Nembutsu, self-power Nembutsu, among other practices for 20 years. However, Shinran Shonin's mental may be not good. Zonkaku, who is a son of Kakunyo Shonin, describes the state of Shinran Shonin's mental anguish during this period. Even though he tried to still his mind, waves of consciousness constantly moved him. And though he tried to still his mind in connection, he was constantly covered over by the cloud of illusion and delusion. So in desperation, Shinran Shonin decided to descend Mount Hiei and tried to seek instruction from Prince Shotoku, whom he respected and admired greatly. So as you know, Prince Shotoku is very popular in Japan, all over the world. He's the second son of Emperor Yomei, and he established Buddhism in Japan by creating the 17-article constitution based on the Buddha Dharma. The Shinran really respected and admired greatly Prince Shotoku. And after leaving Mount Hiei, when Shinran Shonin was 29 years old, he visited at Rokkakudo and had a revelation in his dream. It's hard to see, but you can see the Rokkakudo in the yellow square. Rokkakudo Temple is believed to have been built by Prince Shotoku in Kyoto. And in this temple, so you can see the white Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, Kannon Bosatsu. So that Kannon Bosatsu is enshrined at the Rokkaku-do in Kyoto. So this is a Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, Kannon Bosatsu, clothed in white robes and sitting quietly on a huge white lotus flower. And it's Shinran Shonin, bowing to Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. And a description of people praying or sleeping all night. So it shows this scene was in the middle of the night. Shinran Shonin confined himself for 100 days of meditation. On the 95th day, Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, Kannon Bosatsu, appeared to Shinran in a vision at Rokkaku-do. The revelation in his dream from the Bodhisattva was about this. The Bodhisattva was the salvation of people who were incapable of observing the Buddhist precepts in order to advance to enlightenment. So for Shinran, it's totally difficult to attain Buddhahood by on his own effort, self-power. And he went to Rokkaku-do and he got the important message from the Bodhisattva, which is this. It was the salvation of people who were incapable of observing the Buddhist precepts in order to advance to enlightenment. In addition, the vision of Kannon Bosatsu, which means Prince Shotoku, appeared before him, instructing Shinran Shonin to visit Honen Shonin. This is Honen Shonin. So while he was Mount Hiei, Shinran Shonin must have heard of Honen Shonin, who was advocating the recitation of the Nembutsu at his temple. However, Shinran Shonin did not abandon his practice and studies at Mount Hiei until he was persuaded to live by the vision of Prince Shotoku. Then, Shinran Shonin descended Mount Hiei and determined to enter the gate of Honen Shonin's residence and became Honen Shonin's disciple. So Kakunin Shonin praises Shinran Shonin as a holy person through describing the revelation in the dream at the Rokkaku-do in Shinran Denne. And next, let me explain about explain the story about encountering with Honen Shonin. After having his revelation in his dream, Shinran Shonin then visited Honen's residence at Yoshimizu in Higashiyama, Kyoto, when he was 29 years old. Shinran Shonin moving towards Honen's residence. It's also Shinran Shonin wearing a white Buddhist robe. It represents kind of Tendai monk. And number 3, Honen. It's Honen Shonin wearing a black Buddhist robe. So one of the interpretations is that Honen Shonin represents not only Buddhist monk, like he already believes other power, Amida Buddha's primal vows, Nembutsu teaching. There's 2 Shinran Shonin depicted in this scroll painting. This characteristic painting method is known as Ijidozu Gaho, which shows the composition of successive events in a unified background. This scroll features 2 senses, two scenes, Shinran Shonin visiting Yoshimizu to meet Honen and encountering with Amida Buddha's salvation through listening to the Dharma talk of Honen. So Shinran Shonin was doing various practices, including Nembutsu as his own effort at Mount Hiei. However, when Shinran Shonin listened to Honen Shonin's Dharma talk, and he realized that Amida Buddha's primal vow has been working to Shinran Shonin to attain Buddhahood. It's like this. So in Mount Hiei, he was doing various practices, including Nembutsu, as his own effort. But Buddha has already achieved all practice that Shinran has to do, and reciting Nembutsu is coming from Amida's working, and it is Amida's perfectly virtue. So we recite Namo Amida Butsu, but Amida Buddha knows our pain and suffering, and our sadness and loneliness more than anyone else. Through listening to the compassionate calling of Amida Buddha and reciting the Nembutsu like this, I feel the working of Amida's vow that is knows my suffering and that is would never abandon me. By reciting the words of Nembutsu, I can feel the presence of Amida Buddha. It's my voice that you hear, but we, Shin Buddhists, understand that Amida Buddha is always with us. When I hear Namo Amida Butsu through your voice or my own voice, anytime and anywhere in our lives, I can feel the working of Amida's primal vow, that it will not abandon us. So like Amida Buddha is with you and me, anytime, anywhere. In Tannisho, Shinran Shonin's words said, I simply accept the words of my dear teacher. The dear teacher is Honen Shonin. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida, and entrust myself in the primal vow. Besides this, there is nothing else. So thanks to Shinran Shonin, I can encounter Nembutsu and receive Amida Buddha's vow. When I hear Namo Amida Butsu through my voice or your voice, I just feel Amida Buddha's primal vow. So, and at the end of my life, or your life, we will be born in the Pure Land and attain Buddhahood. We are already granted our precious lives that will be born in the Pure Land. So lastly, I'd like to talk about Shinran Shonin's story that Shinran passed away at 90 years old. In 1262, Shinran Shonin showed symptoms of indisposition, attained in the Pure Land on November 28th in 2063. It's Zenpobo. It is said that Zenpobo was the residence of Jinu Sozu. He is the younger brother of Shinran Shonin. It seems that Shinran Shonin spent his last years in Zenpobo. We can see in the diagram many disciples being drawn surrounding Shinran, letting us easily imagine that these disciples listened very carefully to Shinran Shonin's Dharma message. As you know, Shinran Shonin wrote many writings, and most of these writings were produced after he returned to Kyoto. And one of his disciples was Kenchi-sama. Kenchi Shonin must have worked hard and record Shinran Shonin's words. One of these words in his records is the Jinen Honi Sho, which is known as a record of Shinran Shonin's Dharma message. at the age of 86 years old. And Kenchi Shonin also is compiled hymns of the Dharma ages, and lamp for the latter ages. On the upper right side, you can see the scene of Shinran's passing. And on the left, there is the scene of Shinran Shonin's body being moved to the crematory. On January 16, Shinran Shonin's extraordinary life ended. In Shinran Denne, Kakuren Shonin expressed towards the latter part of midwinter in the second year of Kocho 1262, Shinran Shonin showed symptoms of a slight indisposition. From this time on, he never mentioned earthly things, but dwelled only on deep gratitude to the Buddha. His only words were the constant recitation of the Nembutsu. On the same day, at noon, he led himself on his right side with his head towards the north and his face towards the west. When his recitation of Nembutsu was heard no more, he passed away. He was just completing his 90th year. The day after the cremation, the remains were placed in Otani, north of Toribeno. It is said that each of his disciples remembered his or her day of existence and shed tears in admiration of Shinran Shonin. So you can see the Shinran Shonin's statue, like wooden statue. In 1272, Shinran Shonin's youngest daughter, Kakushinni, who was with him during his deathbed, moved his grave to her personal grounds. In the center of the illustration, there's a mausoleum, I don't know how to pronounce it, Byodo, and it's an image of Shinran Shonin. According to one theory, this is the wooden statue enshrined in the Goeido, present Goeido of Nishihonganji in Kyoto. So this is the last part of the Goeden. And right side of person, you can see, is maybe Kakunya Shonin. So this is the original, this is the original mausoleum of Shinran Shonin. It was built by his disciples in the eastern hilly area of Kyoto called Otani. And some years later, the repository developed into a temple called Honganji, Nishihonganji. Since then, countless Jodo Shinshu followers have visited Nishihonganji as their head temple. So already, is it? So this is a official movie to introduce Honganji on the official website, Nishihonganji. Would you like to watch this? Okay. So it's silent, so I'll read. The Honganji is the headquarters of the Jodo Shinshu Honganji Ha organization. The Jodo Shinshu teaching was established by a Buddhist priest named Shinran. The temple originates from the repository of Shinran's ashes that was built by his disciples in the eastern hilly area of Kyoto called Otani. Some years later, the repository developed into a temple called Honganji. and relocated to different areas, including Yamashina in Kyoto and Osaka, before settling down at its present location in 1591. Since then, countless Jodo Shinshu followers have visited Honganji as their head temple. So, Amidato and bread. Within the Honganji compound are its 2 religious halls and other architectural treasures, including the Hyunkaku Pavilion. Karamon Gate and Shoin chambers, which can all be traced back to the 16th century. In 1994, Honganji was designated as a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site. And in 2014, the Amida-do and Goe-do were both designated as national treasures. Shinran, in his main work that is commonly known as the Kyoryo Shinsho, translated as the true teaching, practice, and realization of the Pairan Way, clarified that the salvic working of Amida Buddha's primal vow includes all living being as its recipient. He cultivated the teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha and the many Buddhist masters into the universal teaching known as Jodo Shinshu. From Shinran, the teaching has been passed down through his lineal successors appointed as Honganji's head priest, and the many devout followers that has made it possible for us to receive the teaching today. So you can see the movie on the website, on the internet, so, okay. Thank you for cooperation. So in times of joy and sadness, Shinran Shonin endured his whole life with the Nembutsu as a precious effort to lead me to the Nembutsu. Let us inherit the teachings of Namu Amida Butsu, which Shinran taught through his life. I think the true meaning of Nembutsu life can be clearly seen in Shinran Shonin's 90 years of fulfilled life. As he stated through his powerful words in Tanisho, this, in the person who lives in Nembutsu opens up the great path of unobstruction. Despite our present extravagant life, rich life, we experience a great emptiness. This empty feeling and its hunger can never be fulfilled unless we choose a life that leads us on the path of Nembutsu life. Once a person enters into the life of the Nembutsu, it becomes a wonderful life without a single element of fear. We will be released from any fear due to uncertainty or fear of being punished by gods or demons. We must receive this path as a single path to freedom. Thus, one of the crucial points of Jodo Shinshu is to truly live within the teachings of the Nembutsu. So today, I talked about the life of Shinran through a Buddhist picture scroll, Goeden. Goeden is really important to understand Shinran Shonin's life and his teaching, Jodo Shinshu. This time, I just picked some sections of Goeden. So I couldn't pick up all sections of Goeden, but maybe next time, or I don't know, hopefully I want to share other sections sometime. Okay, so thank you very much for your attendance tonight. I'd like to thank all of you for your attendance tonight. And my English is getting worse and worse, but I really appreciate for giving this opportunity to share my talk. So lastly, please join me in Gassho. Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Thank you very much, 南條先生。ありがとうございました。Okay, now we'll sing the gatha Namo Amida Butsu on page 6 in the blue service book. Congregation, please stand up.
Please be seated.
Let us recite together the Shinran Creed found on page 2 in the same service book. Followed will be the recitation of the benediction.
If you'll now follow along page 2, the bottom, Shinran Creed. The Shinran Creed. We single-heartedly take refuge upon Tathagata Amitabha for the enlightenment in the life to come, abstaining from all sundry practices and teachings and giving up the trust in our powerless self. We believe that the assurance of a rebirth comes at the very moment we are led to entrust upon the Buddha, and we call the name Namo Amida Butsu in happiness and thankfulness for the Buddha's great compassion. We also acknowledge gratefully the benign benevolence of our founder and the succeeding masters who have led us to believe in this profound teaching. And we do now endeavor to follow throughout our lives the way laid down for us. Amida Buddha surrounds all men and all forms of life with infinite life and light. Particularly does the Buddha send forth loving thoughts to those in suffering and sorrow, to all those in doubt and ignorance, to all who are striving to attain truth, and to those whose feet are standing close to the great change men call death. Amida Buddha sends forth oceans of wisdom and compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Namo Amida Butsu.
We would like to thank all of you for attending here in person or watching through YouTube channel of today's English service. For those attending here in person, please take time. This QR code, it's going to be located near the entrance. For those watching online through the YouTube, please click on the link provided in the description field. We would really appreciate if you could fill up the survey provided in the link and give us your feedback or views so that we can improve on our services. You can say it was fun, or you want to hear, if you want to hear something about the Dharma talk or any topic, you can write it, okay? The next service will be held on October 28th at 5:30 p.m. in the same room. The guest speaker will be Reverend Aya Honda, Minister of Ecology Temple in Osaka. And the topic will be sharing the Buddha Dharma and Nembutsu, Jodo Shinshu from Tsukiji Hongwanji to America. We look forward to seeing you again. Let us put our hands together in Gassho. Namanda, 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 Namanda. Everyone, please feel free to join us in fellowship and refreshments after offering incense. Everybody, once again, thank you so much for coming to this English service. どうもありがとうございました。お気をつけてお帰りください。